How you doing, Josh? Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
All right. So I don't write on Signal. Um, I find Signal doesn't solve things. So I don't put my opinions. I don't put my thoughts on Signal. So I did not participate in any of the Signal groups or ones created by the Georgia GOP discussing this weekend.
Mhm.
And so that's one of my rules. My second rule is I don't like gossip. And the third one is I believe in saying things directly from somebody. I think you and I have hit a wall. I think I am totally disappointed, and I'm going to stay with kind words on what happened Saturday. I do not think that was a coincidence, what happened Saturday. Um, you have communicated with me on issues you wanted to lead me to believe. Now, this is my impression that you're communicating. You stand up on a stage and you do a lot of things I know nothing about. And although the rules say you don't have to tell me, the people that stood out in that room have expectations that voted for you, me, David, the rest. They have expectations. And they have the same expectations of us as they have you. And I understand my show during the day has a reflection on you, much like your actions have a reflection on me. I'm not satisfied. We got a problem today. We can clear up the problem, or I told you man to man when we started, I will support you. I've been kind in every call. I've been supportive of every call. Anything I could say or do of support. But I told you I would support you, but not to a fault. That's where I'm at today. You didn't handle our business Saturday. You got out of there without addressing the corporate structure. You got out of there without the accountability rule being discussed. You got out of there without any resolutions being discussed. We had a presentation from your wife on events that I didn't even know was taking place. I feel when I say you are the chairman. Vicky Consiglio gets up there and people start trying to convince me we got to go back to Columbus. And if we don't do it right this minute, we have no chances. I I I I didn't see all the heaping of praise on Signal concerning Saturday that you generally get. You have not. I mean, that was an absolute clear, clear to me of what direction. You had a meet and greet all by yourself. Good for you, because it's becoming evident that you run things all by yourself. Now, I'm serious. That meet and greet didn't say come meet and greet the chairman. We understand you're the chairman. We're not dumb. And the officers of the Georgia GOP. Okay? Now, I know you said election integrity Saturday, and you said we had a meeting. But I think that room of 150, I never need credit. I don't need credit for anything. But that room of 150 people, you said we had a 2-hour election integrity meeting. Okay. But why did we have that 2-hour election integrity meeting? If you want to say because you set it up, great. But week after week after week, I told you, let's get David in a room and talk. We finally did. And if it wasn't for Caroline being secretary and and Vicky, I mean, what's her name, being treasurer, Lori, I don't know that you'd acknowledge the state officers Saturday. Now, I mean, I don't know what you plan to do, but obviously, I don't want to go rogue. I've asked David, don't go rogue, but I know David has offered over and over, and you can't tell me the indictments. We knew when we left Columbus. We've had discussion after discussion. Colton Moore raised $350,000. Bottom line, Harrison Floyd, $228,000. Okay? The list goes on. Donald Trump, 7.1 million. They were all in advance ready to go. You announced we raised $17,000. Hey, Josh, I don't know what you got going on, but you text me and gave me shit over Joel Nance when you know the truth. You know the answer. I didn't blow that deal up. But you want to read the text message I got from you, and you never answered me on that. You didn't answer me. I've asked you multiple times, what was the meeting like with Brian Kemp? You've never answered me. I took the calls last week about Garland Favorito and texted you several times. Can we just have a quick talk? You never answered me. You said paper ballots on that stage. I have to tell you got to tell me really what your plan is come today and in the future. And I don't want to sound mean, but I don't want to hear excuses.
Are you ready for me to say something now?
Yeah, I am. I have more. Let me if you want me to get out of the way. You know what? I asked you very nicely. My wife asked you. Okay? No, I do not like your wife in that office. I do not like your wife having a Georgia GOP email address when David and I cannot. I do not like hearing your wife as a volunteer, so she comes in and gives us an event. I do not like knowing from sources that your wife has clients that come in our office. You know, what if I told you today?
No. Let me tell you something right.
What?
That's not true.
But no. It is true.
My wife, no. I'm going to be heard about this. I'm not just going to listen to this shit for,
This is shit?
I'm going to be heard. I've listened to you complain for almost 10 minutes uninterrupted.
I haven't complained in 3 months.
If you're going to say things that are not true, I'm not going to just listen to them. My wife's not working. She's volunteering.
All right, my wife's a volunteer today. My wife wants to be a volunteer today.
I'm going to finish this point. She's not working. She's not bringing in any money for her job, for what she's been doing for a living, because she is volunteering in that office. She's volunteering in that office because I have a full-time job, and I have asked her to do that. I'm the chairman of the Georgia Republican Party. The rules say I'm the chief executive officer of the Republican Party. And if people have a problem with me asking my wife to volunteer in the office to help me do what I think needs to happen, then they're going to have a problem for 22 more months, because that's the way it's going to be.
No, it's not. No, it is not. I have said to you nicely, and I get tired of you disrespecting me. I don't disrespect you. For 2.5 months, I say everything I can to support. Everywhere I go to support. And you know it. I've never said an unkind word to you, an accusation to you, or nothing. But actions speak louder than words. My wife didn't get up and say, here's the events. No, she's not a volunteer. She's handling things. You gave her assignments. I have a business, Josh. I have a business. I have asked over and over. I've done digital marketing for 15 years. We are good at it. I asked to come down and get in the interviews. I asked to do anything like that. Kindly. Now, you could get mad if you want, but you're the one that pushed this day, not Brian Pritchard. So I want my wife to be a volunteer. My wife is saying she'll be a volunteer for the Georgia Republican Party and help do marketing. Could she get an email address? No, it's not in the rules. I can't even get an email address. But I can get a damn email from that you wouldn't defend me on? This is not childish. I don't want to be petty.
We're going to have a discussion about you and David Cross. Probably this weekend, because I don't have an unlimited amount of time.
Right.
To deal with grown people that can't.
Don't treat me that way. Don't treat me that way, because this grown person has reached out in every way to everyone in the Georgia GOP, no matter who their position, what their position is. So don't treat me like grown people. I did everything I could. Okay? I did everything I could. So do not put me in that category. I've not done that to one single person. And when you got in a position where you should have nipped it in the bud and handled it, you didn't. And you can say, I'm going to probably handle that with you, David Cross. Why you got to handle it with me, David Cross? Why don't you just go to say, shut the hell up and treat these people as though the 2,000 people in the room, the majority voted for. But no, we don't do that. Now, I'm going to tell you, I am very disappointed in what happened Saturday. You won't tell me.
I am too.
No, you're not. Where's your disappointment? Could you send me your disappointment?
My disappointment is wasting an hour of a meeting on, trying to keep Sarah Thompson in the room, who said she's going to sue us.
I didn't try to keep Sarah Thompson in the room. I didn't try to keep Sarah Thompson in the room. Don't blame that shit on me. Don't blame that on me. I did not spend an hour trying to keep Sarah Thompson in the room. Period.
That should have been a 5-minute discussion. The call that went out to everybody said the meetings for state committee members only. The call said that.
You know what I was told yesterday? I don't know if it's true or false. That is the very first time we held a state committee meeting parallel with an event. If that's false, it's false.
That is unbelievable that someone would say that, because almost every state committee meeting I ever attended when I was at the state committee was either in Perry, Georgia at the Fish Fry, in Atlanta at a hotel alongside the party's holiday party, or at the state convention, because the state committee was always an afterthought. It was always grafted onto something else. And that's been going on for at least 10 years.
You know what, Josh? You know what? I before I bought my tickets, I asked, and I didn't push the envelope. If you'd have stood on the stage and said the rule says that the state committee meetings, the call said the state committee meetings are closed, Mr. Sergeant at Arms, please clear the room, I would have texted my wife and said, oh shit, I made a mistake, and she'd have went out to the car, because I'm a rule follower. You opened the door on if people want to decide to let people stay in. Okay? You opened that door. I didn't open that door.
Yeah, I will not make that mistake again.
Well, I didn't open that door.
Have a discussion in 5 or 10 minutes and be done with it. I didn't think it would be an hour-long debate to figure that question out.
I didn't ask for it to be an hour-long debate. I did not ask for it. Okay? But, I'm not upset. But I do know you have 3 or 4 wives that are not happy, but, it won't be the first time, the last time a wife got upset and we had to try to figure out how to move on. Okay, but that wasn't my point. But an hour was spent on it. All right, it was spent on. I have been the biggest supporter of do not talk to Sarah Thompson of anybody. I have asked early on, Caroline, Lori, David, don't communicate with this woman. I went to Bullitt County. I've been attacked. You've been attacked. End of story. But it doesn't change the fact that we did not do the business. I don't know the reason we got out of there. The reason we got out of there, though, is so you could be somewhere at 5:30. The reason we got out of there is the building was not available after 5 o'clock.
I
get that, but you also had to be somewhere at 5:30. And
by the way, the event at Dr. Tenebre's house was not like some private event.
No, I'm on an email list. I'll get that. I'm on an email list with however many hundreds you sent out. Meet the chairman. They didn't say meet the chairman and the officers. I'm sorry. You have disrespected the officers of the Georgia State Republican Party. You've disrespected my friend David Cross. You're upset with what he does, but you let these things develop, and then you want to know why something happened. It's just like it came down. I don't know. You can get mad all day, but came down to the Georgia GOP and made a presentation to your wife, Travis, and you. And it's a 5-page presentation.
Guess what? I was in that meeting. My wife wasn't there. It was for Travis and me.
Okay, then she lied. Okay, because I don't care to put it out there. I called yesterday. Call me because she's pissed off over David Cross. You know what? You know why David Cross did what he did? Because you mishandled it. You should have sent that 5-page out to officers and said, please review this for the meeting. I'm excited about what we got coming up, and I am looking for your input. No, you stood on the stage, and nobody, not a state officer, especially myself and David, had a copy of that. I didn't have a copy of that. I didn't know it was out there.
And told me she wasn't going to be able to come, and so I didn't furnish it to anybody.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not anybody. We're going to clear that up today. I have a pretty good following with the Grassroots. You and I are going to get on the same page today. I know that sounds pretty rough, but we're going to get on the same page today. Because I am tired of Grassroots. I know what you're going to say. Well, I'm tired of people calling me and talking about Kemp, Brian Pritchard and Kemp. Well, tune in at 8 o'clock this morning. Because let me tell you what Brian Pritchard didn't do. Brian Pritchard didn't tell him not to come to the damn convention. Brian Pritchard didn't tell him to stand up and say he can no longer work with the Georgia GOP. Brian Pritchard didn't tell him to fly to Milwaukee and sit on a radio thing and say Trump's a loser. Brian Pritchard didn't do any of that shit. And I'm tired of getting accused for it. And that's the bottom line. I've asked you nicely week after week. I said, man, can we not tell the guy to quit sticking the finger in the damn eye of the Grassroots? And I will not turn on the Grassroots. You said paper ballots on that stage. And then you watched as they denied voter GA their table.
So, Brian, let me ask you a question.
Go ahead, ask it.
The contract for that event was between the 8th District GOP.
I understand.
And
it's private. And they had all the rights. I got you.
And so look, I know that you were calling. I called, Chan and his committee, according to Chan, made a decision about voter GA's sponsorship. I would not have made that decision, right? But I also didn't have any, as with your radio program, as with David Cross sending out stuff. I mean, I don't have any control over what Chan or the 8th District decide to do. So I get there and they're having this discussion about T-shirts. And one of these guys comes over and says, will you please talk to these people with T-shirts and tell them they need to go change clothes? I said, absolutely not. I've never heard that was part of the conversation. And I was not going to be a party to that, because if we have a Georgia Republican Party function, I would rather people not wear vulgar T-shirts, but outside of that, if somebody wants to wear paper please or whatever they want to wear, they should be able to wear it, but it was not our event. Now, I will tell you what I've told others since Saturday, which is my intention is, even if it's, there's going to be an expense involved with it, we will have standalone state committee meetings from here on out. So there's no, implied endorsement of anything that any other group might be doing. We'll also be able to make sure that if you've got guests with you, that there's some other place they can go in the building that they can be while we're conducting our business. And, if I had to do it over again, would we do it at the Ag Center in Cary along the 8th District Fish Fry? Absolutely not. And so we're not going to do that again.
Well,
I can't do anything about yesterday, but I can do about going forward.
No. You know what? I could appreciate all of that, and I understand not being, and you didn't imply this, but not being an idiot, I understand they paid rent, and I understand by paying rent, it's considered private, and I understand by being private, they could deny entrance. I got all that. But you know what I also got? I got a call from Garland Favorito we were still in Thursday, I think Wednesday, we were still in Milwaukee, and I'm going to the airport. I got a call. Then I got a call from someone else that says, where do we stand on this? You need to do something about it. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I'm texting you. So I call on the Thursday, I fly back. I'm in the airport in Milwaukee. I call Chan. I've never had a crossword with Chan. I told you in the text message. They ended well, but with no resolve. But I didn't yell at Chan. I didn't scream at Chan. I didn't call him names. I did say, Chan, I think you're wrong. I think you're making a mistake. I said, it's not going to look good. You're going to pay for it. Now, it's national. It's friggin' national. I don't know if you know DC Drano on Twitter that has, 1.3 million followers or what. It's national, okay? So now I'm texting you all along. I got people calling me. I talked to Chan. All right? Hang up the phone with Chan. I called Garland. I said, Garland, I have not resolved anything with Chan. But Chan finally said they're not welcome. He finally said, first time he just told me there was some kind of mix-up. Then the second time he said, the entire thing comes down that I'm trying to communicate with you, and you don't even have the respect to tell me if you talked to somebody, if you spoke to somebody, if you're addressing it. You don't even have the decency to text me back and say, I called Chan. It is a private event. They are paying rent. They can legally deny anybody. He knows that I wish, because that's what I told Chan. He knows that I wish he would. That would have took 5. You just ignored me. You can say what you want. The proof's here. You ignored me. Okay? I get down there. I got people looking at me because I'm the first vice chair. Now, what you're doing, Josh, is you're exerting your muscle as chair. You are. And when you don't need to, when I'm going to say care, when you don't need to respond and care, the rules say you don't have to. And I get left in the dark. All right? And every week, I ask you certain things, but you could have sent me back just a real quick text. So when I walk through the door as the first vice chair, now I'm not bragging and I'm not being arrogant, and I don't know if you wondered, but I probably have as many people reached out and shook my hand Saturday as they did yours. Whether and I don't mean that in a bad way. And I've never tried to exert myself over or above you. I've always tried to be your follower. Always. And always try to bring you information if I hear it out there. Ask Chan who told him ahead of time, and I wasn't betraying my friends at Voter GA, and I wasn't betraying the ballot. But I told Chan early, hey, Chan, prepare that I think you might have, some people come down there. You might want to be ready for this. I try to treat everybody with respect.
Right.
But I walk through the door and they're all looking at me. And then, you know what people keep saying to me, Josh? They say, Josh said paper ballots on the stage. And see, I don't know if you understand how this is coming to you, and I know I talk loud, and I think you've realized by now I just do things with passion, and I'm loud in general. But you know what? You know how many people have called me and texted me, Josh said paper ballots on the stage. The perception is you turned your back on the people. That's the perception. You might not like it, but it is the perception. And the perception is we allowed it as the Georgia GOP. And I am thoroughly disgusted that Chan cleared the room for Brian Kemp, and when Brian Kemp left, let them put their shirt on. Now that's not right. And
I certainly would not have done that if it had been up to me.
I understand that, but that can't be, you can't have a political answer for everything, Josh. That's a political answer.
That's just the reality. That's the reality-based answer. It was a private event.
Did you go to Chan? Did you go to Chan and say, Chan, this is private. You paid for it. It's your event. But the Georgia GOP is holding our meeting here today. And although we have to respect you as the host of this day, it's not looking good for us. Can we let Garland set his table up because his name's on the marquee? And can we just ask that everybody be polite today or something? Did you say that?
I asked him to do that before Saturday. I said, look, I've known Garland a long time. Garland's not going to cause any problems. I don't know why, you take somebody's money, you allow them to get registered, and then kind of on the eve of the event, you cancel. I mean, I think this is going to draw more attention to this, not less. And so if the goal is that you're trying to have a controversy-free event, I think you are going in the wrong direction.
Well, guess what? And I know you got mad at me. Listen, I have been reluctant every single week, every single week, every single week. I get phone calls every single week, every single week. And you know what I tell people? If Jacqueline McKoon was an employee of the Georgia Republican Party and I did not feel she was adequately doing her job or doing a job that we didn't need, I'd call the chairman and say it point blank. But every time I speak to the chairman, I try to reserve myself that at the end of the conversation, this is his wife. Now you're not gonna agree with this, and she's not gonna agree with this, but I understand how your wife feels about me because it's been said to me. And anytime I've bumped into your wife, her actions have been very clear towards me. So that's okay. I didn't get up this morning to see if Jacqueline likes me. But I don't like the fact that the rumor all around is Misha Maynard is her client. Okay?
Misha Maynard is not her client.
Well, I mean, that's the rumor. I don't talk behind anybody's back.
Yeah, so let me clear that up for you. Jeremy Brand, who is a political consultant.
I know Jeremy. Yes.
My understanding, I haven't seen a contract or a disclosure or anything like that, but my understanding is that Jeremy's working with Misha. She was working with a gentleman named Vince Watkins, a black political consultant who I've known for a long time, and he worked with her when she ran for the House the first time and for her re-election. He was working with her when we were going through the discussions about her switching. And then I do know, because she shared this with me, that she and Vince had parted ways, and she told me that she had hired Jeremy Brand.
Yeah, I know Jeremy.
So
I get it. I get it. I know Jeremy. I know him loud and clear.
But there isn't. I am painfully and keenly aware that there is no money-making activity that is going on.
Well, I don't think she should be. I don't think she should be in there. I don't think she should be in there. I think it looks bad. I know it's being talked about, and it's even been said in circles that the true person running the Georgia GOP is Jacqueline McKoon. Now, you don't have to like anything I say, but I've got the guts and courage to say it to you, not behind your back. Okay?
I appreciate
yeah, but it doesn't look good. It does not look good. I don't think I am so disappointed that we have raised $17,000.
So let's talk about that for a second. Second. First of all, it's not true that the totality of the funds that have been raised by the Georgia Republican Party is $17,000.
That's what you reported.
There's $17,000 that's been raised related to appeals made regarding the electors. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, yes, if we had the machinery of the Donald Trump universe of political organizations, I am quite certain we would have raised a lot more money. I also think that if I was able to position one of the electors, if Harrison Floyd had been one of the people we had indemnified, and we've been able to say, here's the only black defendant languishing in Fannie Willis's jail because he doesn't have a lawyer, he doesn't have a bond, help him now. That's frankly a little more sympathetic than here's a state senator, here's a former chairman, and they're all middle-aged white people. I mean,
Josh,
the idea that is on an equal footing is silly to me.
No, Josh, we've had close to 3 months. We knew this was coming down the road. We were ill prepared. You can get mad if you want, but I've asked you multiple times to use me. I've been in business my whole entire life. I am sorry, you totally disrespect my abilities. You think I just do a show for 2 hours.
I don't disrespect
but you know what I'm looking at, Josh? I don't know what you're about to tell me, but I'm looking at the GAGOP website, and it still says David Schaefer, and it still says Find My County Party, and it does not have a pop-up, please. And this is just the beginning. Now, you have held to the vest so tight of anybody being a participant. I set up a meeting. I have to tell you right now, okay? If it was me, and it's not, and if you handle this in a way that causes separation, then that would be up to you. But Travis would be fired today. Today would be Travis's last day, because friends are friends, but business is business. Travis is doing a poor job, and I think you should cut your losses before you get started. Second, your wife would get moved out today. You might get moved out of the house, but she'd get moved out. I don't know if David Schaefer's wife worked in the office. I don't know if John Pageant's. I don't know if the lady that used to be chair, her husband, or whatever.
Sue was a widow during that time.
Okay.
So
all right. Sue Eberhardt. But all I'm saying is you have a bad perception. I am tired of getting phone calls of how Travis treats people. All right. Now I'm just being candid with you. I have tried everything. I get along with him, but getting along with him, I told you. I said, Josh, you're busy. I said, you're busy. I said, we set this meeting up. I said, let me set up a weekly meeting with Travis, okay?
Right.
All right. And what we could do with that meeting, Josh, is I could cover if I need something to go to you. If you need something from me, Travis can handle it, and you can go on about your week. Travis never has anything. Every week, Travis has nothing. Travis, you got anything? No. One week we talked about, sir, no, I really don't have nothing on my end. Why not, Josh? Why doesn't Travis told, hey, send Brian this to put in a file because I know he's keeping up with everything. I sit on the hour and a half USA meeting last night just so I can learn and just so I could be supportive. I have files built you don't hear me out there. You have never seen Georgia GOP business on social media from Brian Pritchard. You have never heard me go out to a meeting and record GOP business that was out of line from Brian Pritchard. But I told you, God forbid I ever wake up, because I do like you, and I don't know how that soaks in. But I said, God forbid I ever wake up and any reason whatsoever, I have to be the chair of the Georgia Republican Party and act professional and know what's going on and at least not be close to the understanding. Now, that's the bottom line. And Travis never has nothing. You get mad at David. And I called David and I said, David, why'd you do that? Hey, I don't know. Why the hell did you send me that text about Joel Nat when you know the damn truth? You know that Joel every time you slide a paper in front of Joel, he puts an amendment on the bottom. And then I didn't write that article, Hank Sullivan did. And I called Mindy Moore, and I apologized to Mindy. And I said, Mindy, if I've done something, you know what Mindy said? Brian, you've done nothing. Joel is not making a deal. I went to Donna Watson Saturday, and I said, Donna, I need to talk to you. And she said, what's up? I said, I want to look you in the eye and apologize if I hurt any kind of negotiations with Joel. She said, don't lose no sleep over that. But no, my chairman sent me a message and alluded that I blew the deal up. Now, why did you do that?
So, Brian, you just got finished telling me a little while ago about, being willing to come and say some things directly and not, and other people not being willing to do that. I'm not surprised that those are the reactions you got when you talk to those people. But here's my way of thinking about it. The stuff with Joel.
So they lied to me. Okay, I get it. That was okay. All right.
They're either going to sue or they're not going to sue. It is what it is. And I'll tell you this too. If you want to tell me, because look, I don't really want to get into this because I'm not frustrated with you, but I spent 10 weeks trying to tee things up to get the governor more involved in what we're doing.
Right.
And, David Cross replying, to a social media post with him demanding that he disgorge, $78 million or whatever it was, help the Georgia electors, and then just continuing to hammer on him. I feel like, and I'm not talking about you, I want to be clear, I'm talking about David, but I feel like every day that we're in this kind of small boat in the ocean, and every day David is picking up the anchor on the boat and tossing it over the side, and then I'm spending all of this time pulling the anchor back up. But the good news is that the concern I had about, putting people front and center and everything else, I've got a good relationship with the governor. I'm going to continue to have a good relationship with the governor. I just don't think we're going to be able, with the current complexion of the.
Now, I have two questions on that. How do you read a good relationship with the governor? Has he give you any money? Did he write the Georgia GOP this morning? Has he written the Georgia GOP a check?
No.
No. Okay. So could you define good relationship with the governor? I'm serious. I'm not being facetious. Could you actually define, because I'm not understanding what good relationship with the governor means.
I can ask for a meeting and sit down with him for an hour and talk about what's going on, and have a good discussion about what we're trying to do, what they're trying to do, which is something that I know under the previous chairman was not possible.
Right.
But having said all of that, I think that if there are some things, and we can talk about whether that's media appearances or other things that you want to do.
I don't want appeased. I don't want appeased. I'm not looking for things to do as far as like, hey, this is what I want to do. I'm looking to be the first vice chair of the Georgia Republican Party. And, the first vice chair and the second vice chair, actually the rules say, that, basically you should be giving us, not quoting, assignments, and you should be, the new chairman should create what you would like to see out of those roles for us to assist you in any way whatsoever. And that's what I've always wanted to do. And you haven't done that. We drove home Sunday from Columbus, and I called you on the phone. And I said, you know what? I know we just got out. We're all exhausted. But up in the North Georgia mountains, they built, $2 million cabins that sleep 15. I said, plan a weekend, tell everybody they're coming up. We're going to get to know each other. Sounded like a good idea. Okay? I asked you over and over. We're going on September. I've asked you over and over. We've had an executive directors meeting. We had a state committee meeting. I asked you over and over. Pull us all in. Set us down. Set up assignments. Look at David Cross and say, David, damn it. I mean, I talked to David. I love David. He's my friend. Now he is. But I can look at him and say, damn it, David, don't go out and do this. And if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. But you know what? You didn't do that. You didn't do that. I asked you over and over. Let's define election integrity earlier. You didn't do that. I said, you know what? They're coming to me and saying you're not communicating. So we set up, I kept coming to you. We set up the Zoom meetings. In the Zoom meetings, Caroline gives us all 5 minutes, and I don't see them to be that productive, but they're happening. Okay? But I had to keep bringing it to you. I mean, I don't know. I am very, very confused. We go to executive meeting, we go to state committee meeting, and not yet. We've gone to the first state committee meeting, and not one time have you had a direct meeting with your first vice chair, second vice chair, and said, okay, let's whiteboard. Let's whiteboard our goals. Josh, I've been in meetings my whole life in corporate offices. Let's whiteboard our goals. Let's whiteboard. We don't feel we're running down the same road with you. And then David goes rogue. And then Josh gets mad. I get it. I understand the whole circle. But I just don't understand why we're not going down the road with you. I text you over and over. What happened with Kemp? I'm a big boy. If you have to tell me that Kemp sat in the office and said that first vice chair is a real SOB, I'll live. Hell, it won't bother me.
I'm, as far as meetings I'm having, and this, I'm not saying this is you, right? But, I told the executive committee and the executive committee only that I was having a meeting with the governor.
Right. And it got out online. I know that.
Stan Fitzgerald.
I got that. You called me.
Stan Fitzgerald, he puts that on Twitter.
Right.
So I'm going to tell everybody the same thing, which is I had a positive meeting with the governor. It did not result in a commitment to be our speaker for the fall event. I feel like I have been.
It didn't result. It didn't result in that, did it?
No, it didn't.
Right.
Because I feel like I've been undermined on a daily basis by people on the executive committee that don't want us to have a relationship with the governor.
No. You got a base. You have a base. You have a base. I'm not the. I don't. I'm not. I'm not like. I'm not the Pied Piper leading a base. I'm not. I mean, I would like to feel I am, but I'm not leading a base out there that is not upset. I don't lead the paper ballot group. I don't lead voter GA. I don't lead the people that think that, I don't lead the people from Pennsylvania that call me. I know it's irrelevant and say, my God, how the hell did you guys elect that damn Kemp again? I don't lead any of those people. None. And I understand that might not be helpful, but you cannot fall back on that being the reason. It may not help, but it's not the reason.
Well, we've talked a lot this morning about having mutual respect for each other. And to me, if you said to me, Josh, this project's really important to me, can you, if you can't be vocally supportive or helpful on this initiative, can you at least not do anything to make it harder for me to achieve that initiative? I sure would do my dead level best to try to be supportive or try to stay out of the way. And that just hasn't happened, but it doesn't matter because I'm not going to invest more time, to your point. It's 2.5 months of effort that, has been flushed down the toilet, but we're going to move on. We're going to, I'm going to.
Wait a minute, it's been flushed down the 2.5 months of effort been flushed down the toilet? We didn't do that, Josh.
I mean, we're just not.
I wasn't the first vice chair. I wasn't the first vice chair of the Georgia Republican Party when the guy decided not to go. Now, at the end of the day, I'm not responsible for Brian Kemp not getting along with the base.
And look, that's fine.
No. I understand what you're doing. I got that. I mean, I'm perceptive. I understand what you're doing. You're like, well, nothing I say is going to convince you. Look, Josh, if you'd have got a meeting a week after or 2 weeks after and had a picture of him with a check, I would be like, cringing. I'm not the reason he didn't give you a meeting in the beginning. I'm not the reason that he won't speak at the fall convention. I'm not the reason. You can think whatever you want. You can hear whatever you want and whatever he says. I'm not the reason he flew to Milwaukee and told your supporter. Josh, you said, I'm going to tell you right now. You said, I'm not telling you to come out and do anything, but I'm going to tell you today, you got elected because people perceived the Josh McKoon that was the conservative state senator, very conservative, and that's who I perceived. And people listened to your speeches that had a conservative tone, and then when you went on that stage, you said paper ballots, and you did. So those kind of things tipped you over the top. And, you could have called us in a long time ago and resolved this. There was just a beginning. I supported you. When we talked, I said, I supported that all the way. But I didn't know, about the total presentation. I didn't know about the university we set up, and I didn't know any of that. And then Saturday, we can't end this we didn't do the business. We did not, we have an accountability. People want to know what happened to the accountability. I like Debbie McCord. I'll go on record. I like Debbie McCord. But I do think Debbie McCord was the chair of that because she supports Ron DeSantis. and she would be the one to steer it in a way it would never go anywhere. And that's okay. That's okay. The other one, whoever this parliamentarian is, we haven't had one meeting on the other committee. Not one. There's a portion of the state that wants to know what's going on with our legal standing. And we didn't address that. We had resolutions that I got people at three weeks in a row. I go somewhere, somebody says, what happened to our resolutions? Chairman told me we will handle that at the meeting. I'm sorry, you should have bagged Jacqueline's presentation. You should have bagged the training. I'm sorry, you should have bagged every damn thing and put the business of the Georgia GOP up front. Now, I'm sorry, the convention, these people don't want to go back to Columbus and they're going to, we're going to get burnt when we start saying Columbus. And we could have, I don't even know how you get on that committee. People are asking me, who made that decision? I don't know who made that decision.
The state committee made the decision on Saturday. They could have voted to not decide.
You threw it at us and told us if we walked out the door and didn't stand up and vote for something, it was the end.
Well,
now this is about, then why did it come to a crucial point?
Because the state committee has to vote on it.
Yeah, well, who is the convention committee? How did that work? Who made all these decisions?
Well, again,
is that funny?
The decision was made by the state committee. I mean, I don't really understand that.
No. The presentation Saturday, who put that together? Who was the committee that put that presentation together?
So I asked Vicky Consiglio to put together the slide deck that I presented. I mean,
well, then who put together the convention? Was there not a committee, or was that just you? I'm just saying direct. Was that just you?
No, it was Vicky Consiglio and Karen Henschel, and they went and checked on available venues.
Why? I mean, you could get mad if you want, but you're sitting out there and everybody, when you go places, Josh, I mean, I'm sorry. I understand the rules I understand there's people out there, I get it, that don't think I should be in my position because I haven't served enough time. There's people in the Georgia GOP that only wish that they've ever participated in business and committees as much as I have. So I'm not an idiot on committees. I read the rules twice. I understand the authorities you have. But when I go somewhere and I'm done and I've got 80-some people in Troup County and 5 or 6 walk up and say, whatever you do, Lord, I know it's close to home, but I don't know if I'd like to go back to Columbus. And then I sit there Saturday and I'm dumbfounded. I'm just first vice chair. I get it. And I'm looking at the screen like, when did all this happen? When did this happen? When did we decide that we've looked at everything? Who did this? I like Vicky Consiglio. I'll go on the record. I like Vicky. But I didn't know why was Vicky the one to do it? Maybe I wanted that assignment. Maybe I was going to set up a folder and call and check the capacity, the rooms within the circle of a certain mile. How many maybe I could have done that. Maybe my wife could have done that. I just don't understand how you're going about, and I'm sorry. I know you don't like this. But, it's coming down, you're looking like a dictator, whether you like it or not.
I mean, people can say what they want. They can think what they want. I'm going to do the best I can. I can tell you this. I can assure you that neither David Schaefer, nor John Watson, nor John Padgett, nor Sue Everhart have had the amount of contact with their executive committee that I have had. None of them. And I will tell you what I feel like you talked about the Zoom call not being productive. I agree with that, because if everybody, and I'm not talking about this call today, but if everybody spends their time saying, here's what's been done wrong here. Here's what's been done wrong here. Here's what's been done wrong here. I have no solutions, but here are the things that I'm upset about, and I'm going to vent my rage at you during this time. The natural reaction of somebody is to say, is this kind of meeting productive? I asked Lori McLean, I emailed everybody, and I said, I think maybe a retreat would be a good idea. What do y'all think about that? And I can't quote directly, but her response to me was something along the lines of, that'd be a waste of time and money or something like that. Now, if you think it's valuable,
No,
Josh,
I thought it was. And I'm not going to say it wouldn't be valuable now, but I thought it was. But when you give me answers like, well, people can think what they want or they can feel however they want, I get that. I get what you're really saying there. When we get done talking, you can feel however you want, but this is where we're at. I have every single week and text messages, if I hear something, try to do every single thing I can to bring you everything that could make the machine run a little smoother.
And by the same token, when you have made requests of me, I have tried to honor and support those requests. When you came to me and said, I sure would like to be able to go to the debate in Milwaukee and bring my wife to the debate. Can you get me tickets?
Right.
I called up Drew McKissick, the co-chair. I didn't have tickets. I called up Drew McKissick, the co-chair of the RNC, and I said, I know we're past the deadline. It's really important to me. It's my first vice chairman. He's going to be in town. Really wants to be able to come to the debate. And I'm not saying, oh, look at me, I did something for you. What I'm trying to say is, if you say to me, Josh, this is something that's important to me, I'd like to do, I'm going to do my very best to fulfill that request. If your ask of me is, Josh, I want you to think hard, long and hard, under the rules, about giving myself, David Cross, some specific areas of responsibility, I'll be glad to do that.
Okay, well, I have to say, I don't know why that's today after damage is done, after I have to talk to for an hour yesterday. Then I got to call David and say, David, why the hell did you put name on a signal group without calling her? Because that's not my personality. If I got something to say, I call you. Right. And he says, well, okay. And then I say, call, because presentation on election integrity actually opens the door for meetings to discuss what goes in there. So he calls, and at 5 o'clock last night on my Sunday, just like the day I sent you, I get up Sunday morning, and I got a text message ripping my ass from. Now she didn't say she ripped me because we had a good day, and I did. But text messages have tone. Right. And I said, well, I better call. Then I called David. Then I called her back. Are you okay? This was all preventable. It was all preventable. A little communication up front. Maybe Travis sending out, hey, you know what? Here is the upcoming. Josh wanted me to share this. That's the reason I meet with Travis. What's new? So Travis could say, well, look, we had a meeting the other day. These are some of the notes that Josh said that I can share with you. We're doing this. We're not going to do this right now. We're going to hold on sending this out. We're going to do Hey, look, I know the rule doesn't say he has to, quote, do that, but it helps me. Okay.
No, that is entirely fair.
But I get nothing. I get nothing. Well,
let me work on that.
And then I say to, and then I say, then it's just like Sunday, I invested my time and my text to hey, don't give me no shit. On Sunday, I'm trying to drink coffee, and I got back. You're the first vice chair of the Georgia Republican Party. You need to handle this. Okay. That was fair. And I'm like, okay, you know how I would have handled it? Before we would have ever went up there Saturday, and put that on the screen. I knew the night before that wasn't going to make it. I got the phone call from, I know the family very well, called me. I knew they weren't going to be there. So I get that changed some plans. But at the same time, when you're sitting out there, all right, and look, I don't know what you're going to do. I really don't. But I thought about this for a couple weeks. I want you, not Travis. I want you to either pull in everybody's GAGOP.org email address and reissue them based on a new confidentiality and rules of having the email address, or send David and I our email address, whichever you want to do.
Well, I will give that some consideration, and I'll get back to you on that question. But look, I want to tell you, I appreciate the fact that we have these conversations. I will, before the next state committee meeting, even though the next one I think will be a little bit reduced in scope, I will make sure we have an opportunity for all the officers that want to have a discussion about the content of the meeting, and we can go over what's going to be discussed. And people want to provide input, they can provide input.
Right.
I'll certainly make that commitment to you that before we do the next one, we'll do that.
I have 3 minutes before launch, and it's not my intent to give you a laundry list and then say I got to go. But you will need to deal with the resolutions. The chairman of the Georgia Republican Party needs to put out something, whether it's an apology or however you want to write it, that the resolutions have not been disregarded. Second, you have a resolution from me, but it is a very popular resolution condemning Fani Willis and actually acknowledging Donald Trump, not endorsing him, but acknowledging him. The Georgia GOP needs to do something in writing, acknowledging. I'm going to make this request, and I know how far it's going to fall and when it hits the ground, how big of a boom. But I want Joel Nat removed from the Election Integrity Committee. We may not be able to remove him from the Board of Elections without legal, but he can be removed from the Election Integrity Committee. And I feel he's detrimental to that meeting. Okay, I've been in a meeting with him. All right, and I want him removed from that meeting. And the last thing, so I can couch it very clear, pull all email addresses in, write a policy for the Georgia GOP telling people how it's to be used and what violations or what would violate the trust of using a GAGOP email address, or send David and our email address. And if you don't take my back on and ask her to respect me, let me tell you the win Saturday. You ready for the win? You ready? Let me tell you the win, and let me tell you who Brian Pritchard really is. I have sent word by Brad Carver. I've sent word by Sally Grubbs. Okay? And Saturday I said, if I get myself in position. When we got done with the meeting, I stood about 18 inches from someone. And I said, if they turn, I'm going to initiate. And they turned. And I said, can I speak with you? And she said, yes. I said, can I shake your hand? And she said, yes. I said, can I call you and offer you coffee? And she said, yes. And I said, thank you, Marcy. Let's work together.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
That's who I am. And that's why I will not be put in a box, not implying you did, of childish acts we're concerned. So it's 8 o'clock. I have to go. I apologize for being abrupt in the end. I apologize for loud, because that's me. My whole family were just loud.
I know you gotta go, but look, I don't have a problem with a direct conversation like this, and I think we'll improve from it. I think we'll get some issues addressed, and I appreciate your time.
No disrespect to anyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.
All
Bye-bye.
right.